Hello and welcome to the Elevate B2B Marketing Podcast, the show where we have conversations that inform, include, and inspire the best in B2B marketing. I'm your host, Lee Odden, co-founder of TopRank Marketing, and today we're talking with Kris Rudeegraap, CEO of Sendoso. Now, Kris has extensive experience in the B2B space. He's an entrepreneur, investor, advisor. He's got a lot going on, and I'm really excited about sharing his insights with you today. Welcome to the show, Kris.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Lee. Really excited to be here.
So we actually met at the B2B Summit in Paris a month ago. It doesn't feel like a month ago. Maybe it was 3 weeks ago. And what a great experience that was. Sharing insights in English to people in France. It's my first time speaking in France. I don't know about you.
Same. Yeah, first time speaking in Europe, actually. I've gone to a couple of panels, but first time kind of leading a keynote. So
a keynote.
Yeah.
Awesome. You know, when we met, and before we had our fun little tour of the Saint Germain locker room and all that, you shared a brilliant idea. I thought it was a brilliant idea about something that you implemented early on, and you've continued at Sendoso, where you've been nurturing and managing a community of influential leaders in the industry in which you operate. And I was wondering if you could share more about that, what it does for you.
Yeah. So I call it my personal industry advisory group. And another way to think about it, though, is I have a community of what I call micro advisors. And so what's different to this than what most founders or entrepreneurs or CEOs do is a lot of founders and CEOs will create a kind of an executive advisory group, maybe 5, 6, 7 people. They might also have a customer advisory group that, again, might have 10, 15 people involved in it. But my program has 100 plus people involved. And it's folks that I've met along this journey over the last 5 years. There's a group of customers that are a part of it. There's CMOs, CROs, CCOs, the gambit of different types of people around the world that I will provide an update to once a month, giving them highlights and milestones and interesting updates on the business. And then I'll also come to them with optional asks throughout the month, probably 1 or 2 asks that could be related to, hey, can I get your feedback on XYZ? Or can you be a part of this talk track and case study, or this blog post we're writing, or can you help me with some market research? I'm thinking about XYZ. Can I get your opinion? Or referrals. Can I get your referral for someone that we're hiring or someone that we're trying to get a meeting with? And so it's been quite unique and quite fun seeing that group grow, meeting with them virtually and in person over the last few years. And really having this kind of mini think tank group that I can go to that all are kind of personally interested in seeing the success of Sendoso happen.
I think it's so smart in so many different levels. I mean, you've got this brain trust, this collective wisdom that you can tap into, and at the same time, I suspect a lot of these folks are influential in their own right. In their own, everyone's influential actually about something. And there's a lot of companies that do what you're talking about in terms of customer advisory council or a board, not a board of directors, but board of advisors or something like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they even go and implement influencer engagement types of initiatives, but they usually stop at these small numbers, and the idea of you managing a relationship or community, building a community really around, something that everyone can understand and be invested in, really is motivation and inspiration for them to help you be successable.
Exactly.
And I just think that's great. It's like influence at scale almost, and from my biased perspective, it's pretty impressive. So, at the conference, you gave a keynote presentation, as you mentioned, and that topic was on full funnel marketing. And in the session description, it talked about 7 plays that you can add to your playbook today. And I was wondering if you could share a takeaway, like give people a short version, if you will, of what advice you shared with those marketers, those B2B marketers in Paris.
Yeah. So my goal for that conversation was really to talk about a lot of the changing trends we're seeing. And one of them is the heightened focus on your customer, especially over the last year and a half, where times have been difficult with headwinds from the macroeconomic situation. It's 5 times more expensive to find a new customer than it is to keep your existing customers. And so with that, though, a lot of people have been using the term ABM, account-based marketing, for years and years and years. And some of it implies that you're going to be doing marketing to your existing customers for expansion. But I wanted to debunk that and really call it full funnel marketing, mainly because I see a lot of marketers kind of end with the closed won opportunity. And they'll say, okay, I'm doing ABM and I found a target account list and I'm going to run targeted ads and run programs to target these prospects. And then we're going to help sales get them to the finish line. And then our job's done. We're going to do more of that. And so for me, it was really like, well, are you doing ABM to market to your customers? And if not, here's a better way to look at it from the lens of full funnel marketing. And really the takeaway with that is, rather than really thinking about expanding your customers as a salesy sales motion, think about driving usage and adoption and advocacy. And once you have those really honed in, then expansion comes easier after that. And so really was talking about some of those nuances.
Oh, that's great. That's great. It's kind of like, there's an adage we have, the best investment, well, in our case, the best investment in marketing is the quality of the product, but, it's the usage of the product, the adoption of the product, right? Because no powerful form of marketing exists other than word of mouth and advocacy and that sort of thing. I don't know if that's what you're getting at, but
exactly.
Awesome. Fantastic. So as you mentioned, there's a lot going on in the business environment right now. And, obviously Gen AI and AI in general, autonomous AI, to these challenges economically perceived and real and whatnot. I'm just wondering, in the midst of this sort of uncertainty and chaos to some degree, what's one thing, if you had to pick one thing? I know that's a tough question, but if there is a feeling of uncertainty for a marketer or a business leader in the B2B space, what's one thing you think they should focus on first?
What's one thing? You mentioned the AI piece, and I'd say tangential to that, I think it's really worth marketers being educated on what are the trends in AI and what are the solution providers they're working with and how are they leveraging AI so that they're not left behind. But I think that's table stakes. If you were to say, what is one thing, I got to go back. I think data. I know data is kind of all encompassing, but if you have a strong data strategy, you can really use that when you need to use AI, or when you're looking at personalization, or when you're prioritizing ABM target lists. So I think data is still the core foundation for a lot of the new things that are coming out. And if you don't have data right, it's going to be harder to do anything else on top of it.
That makes so much sense. And of course, data, what is that? That's customers interacting with things, and the evidence of those interactions are your North Star, right?
Exactly.
To always know what you should be doing if you do believe in the idea of finding out what people want and giving it to them,
when I was back in my early sales days, more than a decade ago, it was, there was this one phrase that stuck with me, like, if not in Salesforce, it didn't happen. And the reason really behind that is because you really need the whole data story in order to layer things on top of it, new technology on top of it, reporting on top of it. And so I think that's critical even for this new AI stage, is like, if you have some new AI copilot that's going to overlay on your Salesforce data to provide smart insights, if you have bad data from the start, it's going to be bad AI. And so I think, again, going back to the foundation and that, lifelong lesson for me, which was if it's not in Salesforce, it didn't happen, is something that's still really critical for today's business, even though that's a couple decade old saying.
Sure. But it really resonates. It's funny when I actually gave a presentation talking about, man versus machine, or human versus machine, and about AI. And one of the takeaways there was, crap in, crap out.
Yes.
AI makes you more of what you are. If you're an ass and you're broke, you're going to be an ass when you're rich.
Yeah, it's so true.
If you put poor prompts in and poor data in, yes, of course you're going to get crap out. So yeah, I love it. Love it. Hey, tell us about the Sendoso origin story, right? How did the company come to be? What are the key offerings, I guess, and who are you selling to?
Yeah, I probably should have started this with this because so listeners can understand what Sendoso is for those who don't know. So Sendoso, we're a gifting platform that helps other companies send out different types of gifts, whether it's swag, promotional products, handwritten notes, wine, you name it, we can get super creative with it. And it's really helpful because it integrates into your tech stack, whether it's through HubSpot or Salesforce or Outreach or any, 6 Sense, any of your marketing tools that you're currently using or your sales tools or your CX tools. And so it's, for me, about a decade ago, I was in sales and I had really seen, first and foremost, the power of email and how people were super responsive. A decade ago, I could send 100 emails and probably get like 95 replies. And that started diminishing. And it was, pretty quickly where these mail merge tools came out and it made it so easy to send a gazillion emails with personalization. And so it kind of commoditized that space a bit for me, at least personally. And so I said, hey, when others are zigging, I'm going to zag. What other creative ways can I get in front of prospects or build better relationships with customers? And I found myself writing handwritten notes and mailing them out. I'd find myself on a call and hear a dog bark and follow up with a dog toy from Amazon or these different one-off, little gifts or thank yous or different ways for me to just build better relationships and break through that digital noise that was harder than ever to do. And it worked really, really well. It was just super manual and time intensive to pack boxes, to click on tracking links, to make expense reports. And so all those things happened. I said, hey, what if there was a platform where you could just click a button or set up an automation and voila, behind the scenes, things were sourced, things were kitted, things were shipped and delivered, things were tracked. And so that was really the early aha moment. And it was really about the time ABM was starting to get going too, which was even more of an aha moment for us in kind of the first year as well. And it's kind of snowballed from there. So now we've seen millions and millions of things being sent through our platform, tens of thousands of customers using the platform, and hundreds of millions of dollars being spent across this channel.
Wow, that's amazing, and it really speaks to how important customer engagement has become, right? And
exactly.
To differentiate, to stand out, and really, when you have something tactile, I mean, I don't think there's anybody who isn't, especially after COVID and increase of getting packages from Amazon and all. Yep. Everyone's like, especially now, I would imagine, is like loves getting stuff, right? Who doesn't like getting something that is gifted to them?
Well, one interesting stat I think is that FedEx boxes have 100% open rate. It's on your door. No one is
there you go.
No one is taking a FedEx box, seeing it on their door or on their desk, and saying just throw it in the trash immediately. There's too much human curiosity and willingness to open a box at the very least. So I think it's a funny.
Yeah, you can't argue with that. 100% open rate. I'm curious, what are some creative use cases that you've seen from your customers when it comes to gifting?
Yeah, there's a couple of my favorites that stand out over the years in terms of just creative ways people are using our platform to send things. One was actually for one of our sales reps probably 3 years ago, right before COVID, was at a conference. Someone was coming by from one of our named accounts on crutches, and he had mentioned that he had broken his ribs in a snowmobile accident. Wow. And we, had some conversations back and forth, and our sales rep followed up with a rack of barbecue ribs in the mail that was delivered when the person got back home with a funny note around like, here's an extra rib for you. Enjoy these. These are my favorite. And so again, it's just kind of this personal, quirky, like, how can you not respond to that? It's personalized, it's unique, it's kind of clever. And it just creates that, creativity, that human to human touch that I think people really want to see. So that was one of them. There's another one that I liked, which was an interactive, remember those like red and blue, like decoder glasses? They're pretty simple. I mean, they're like, nothing high tech or anything. But again, the interactiveness of sending those glasses with a note and some other things in a box. And you just are curious. The curiosity of like, well, now that I have the glasses and the know, like, let me see what it really says. And so I like that interactivity as well. We for listeners too, if you go to sendoso.com/customer-examples, there's hundreds of examples along with some stats on how they work and some of the ROI on them. So I love sharing other customer examples, and it's a good link maybe to drop in the show notes too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Cause I think I'd heard of Sendoso and I had a rough idea, but then I thought about the digital and the real world combination and, how important it is to engage with people these days in a sea of information overload and distractions. So great examples. And these days, I think there's a lot going on, right? There's a lot going on in terms of what's effective, and there's a bigger push for personalization now, I think, than ever before.
For sure.
And I'm wondering what you think or what you feel that means for how companies should be implementing, their demand gen, their ABM, and go to market.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, it goes back to the importance of good data, number one. But I think the other thing is there's now, interesting tech that you can bolster onto your tech stack to really personalize all aspects of your ABM programs or demand gen markets, whether it's personalized ads, whether it's landing pages or your website that changes based on visitors or emails or GIFs. I think, at the end of the day, you have to personalize, and now it's easier than ever to personalize every aspect of your marketing touch points and every channel. And so it does create some complexities for B2B marketers because there's so many moving parts, but I think it's one of the core competencies that really successful companies do is using personalization at scale.
Yeah, and it's an expectation, isn't it? Right?
Exactly.
I mean,
yeah.
You get just this sheer volume of inbound to you as a potential buyer or something, and when something is thoughtfully personalized, and you talked a lot about what really resonated with you about the gifting is the thoughtfulness. I don't think it's just the gifting; it's the thoughtfulness behind the gifting, and so the thoughtfulness behind personalization also winning combination for sure.
100%.
LinkedIn, who I'm sure we're both equally friends with, we love LinkedIn as B2B folks. Their research shows that 95% of buyers are out of market. And that leaves only 5% in decision-making mode.
Yep.
But at times like these, it seems like B2B marketers are focusing 95% of their efforts on just that end of funnel, on that 5%. And I'm curious if you have advice about how to find a balance between warming up your buying audience and actually engaging them for sales.
Yeah, I actually think this is an interesting topic because I think intent data is very overhyped, and at least the focus of saying, hey, you only should focus on intent data in market accounts and focus all of your energy on going after those. And to your point, well, what happens to all those other accounts that are not getting hit up that likely are good fits that maybe don't know you exist yet or aren't searching yet, but when you hit them up, they could become interesting. And they could become interested in converting too. And so I think there is a bit of a fallacy there. I think pre-intent data and this like in-market data, people were always focused on like, how do I prioritize better? And so when intent data and in-market, the 5% of accounts are in market, I think the pendulum shifted over to that field very quickly. And if, there's just a lot of thought leadership content around that right now. And so I think there is a balance. And at the end of the day, I think you should still focus on intent data accounts and how you prioritize them, potentially with a subset maybe of a group of your sales development reps or account executives that are focused on those, while also looking across your closed won customers, your closed lost customers, your ICP, and really looking at what are these named accounts that you want to go after that should be marketed to, should be running ABM programs to, should be having sales development reps outbound to, that aren't in market, quote unquote, but still look like good fits. So I think it's just a combination, and focusing on one versus the other isn't going to be as beneficial to pipeline or close won revenue.
Well, sure. And it's kind of like, responding to short-term opportunities, obviously with good insight makes sense, but also the investment. It's kind of like an investment in brand, investment in familiarity and trust and recall and all those other things that shorten the time it takes for someone to go from, I'm not even sure I have a problem to, gosh, who's the best solution?
Exactly.
And for you want to be the best answer, you want to be the first choice in someone's mind.
And there's a
time
combo
comes.
of, demand creation and demand capture. And I know those have been talked about for some time now, but I think it goes back to that, which is, sure, how do you capture the people that are already in market? But then how do you drive awareness for people that don't even know they're in market yet, but should be? And so you don't want to miss out on either of those.
Fantastic. Great advice. So there are, I think, a lot of aspiring CEOs, especially with AI as hot as it is and all the funding recently that's being just thrown at AI startups right now. What advice do you have for budding entrepreneurs and marketing leaders?
Yeah, so I think depending on the stage, there's a few different advices. Like if you're not an entrepreneur yet and you're kind of a entrepreneur, you want to be there, you're on the sidelines.
I love that, launchpreneur.
You should jump in. I think now's a better time than ever to jump in and be an entrepreneur. The tools that are out there, the resources. So I think that's above and beyond. But for those who've made the jump, so for those marketers or founders, CEOs that are already out there, I think a couple of things come to mind. One is you got to have fun. Don't take your job too seriously. I know it's stressful. I know there's, the Silicon Valley, vibe is work 18 hours a day and don't do anything else. And so I think you've got to take a step back here and say, one, have fun. It's a marathon, not a sprint. It could be a 10-year journey for you from the time you raised your first dollar, the time you IPO'd or exited. And if you sprint, you're going to burn yourself out. So I think really think about it as a marathon and have fun running that marathon. And then the last thing I think is talk to customers. Talk to customers every single day if you can. I talk to hundreds and hundreds of customers a day. If you're a marketer, I think you should be talking to customers. If you're a founder, an entrepreneur, you should be talking to customers, or, talk to prospects that should be customers, which will eventually become customers. But I think at the end of the day, you're trying to solve a problem and you need to talk to as many people who have that problem and get as many perspectives so that you could, market and solve that problem.
Fantastic advice. I'm going to share or ask you one more question, or a couple more actually, but one is about engagement. It's like when you think of engagement today, engagement opportunity. I mean, like obviously you're in the business of helping brands create some engagement, but I guess what's the future of engagement? What should we be looking for when it comes to engagement? Is it some shiny object, which of course I bias that answer? Is it data? Is it solutions? Is it within? Is it like what, if companies not prioritizing customer engagement right now, I guess what's your argument for getting the look, this is important and here's why. What do you say to them?
Yeah, so I think we are in a world today that has a gazillion distractions and so much noise. And so driving engagement through as many different channels and touch points you can is going to be bettering your chances of success. You might have some channel that you've relied on for years. Maybe you're really good at email marketing and I say, great, go do that. But make sure you're covering all your bases because you don't want to miss out on a customer relationship because you've sent them an email and they're just not fond of receiving emails. Maybe the next customer is, and maybe they love their inbox and they get to inbox 0 every day and they read each and every one of them. But I think you have to diversify. You have to know that it's noisy out there and you have to look at every single channel that you can touch them with, whether it's email, SMS, direct mail and gifting, ads, even ways that they're searching and finding you through, SEM and SEO. Every specific possible way that you could have an engagement, you need to be optimizing for it. And it's no longer a nice to have, but every single channel needs to have a focus area.
Yeah, great advice. ABO, always be optimizing, right? Always be optimizing. Well, here's my last question for you, Kris. What is it about B2B marketing that gives you joy?
Oh, good question. I gotta go back to just the human creativity side of things. it's never a dull day in B2B marketing. You have infinite resources in front of you, and you could be as creative as possible. And I think creativity is one of those skill sets that we will see that won't be kind of commoditized with AI anytime soon. That is something that, sure, you can learn it, but the best, most creative people in the world will always have a leg up. And so anything that you could do to be more creative, I think the better. And it's one of the things that, wows me when I see an interesting campaign or a really thoughtful message or a really unique way of using a channel or engaging with a prospect or customer. And so creativity, if I had to sum it up with one word, is the reason I love marketing.
That's awesome. Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. So what's the best way for listeners or viewers to follow your work and connect with you?
Yeah, so please find me on LinkedIn. You can search for Kris Rudeegraap there. Check out Sendoso if you're intrigued, sendoso.com. Or if you want to email me directly, email me, Kris, it's KRIS @sendoso.com. Always love chatting and networking with you people.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kris. We'll include links to everything
Perfect.
that's linkable in the show notes. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me on today, Lee. This was great.
So the Elevate B2B Marketing podcast, of course, is brought to you by the team at TopRank Marketing, where we help enterprise B2B tech companies get more customers through content, search, and influencer marketing. Of course, you can find us at toprankmarketing.com. Make sure you subscribe to the Elevate B2B Marketing show on your favorite podcast providers. We have an amazing roster of B2B marketing smarties scheduled, and you're not going to want to miss them. So thanks a lot. And thank you again, Kris.
Thank you.